I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I've got a question for you. During the course of your entire education, whether it's grammar school or high school or college or beyond, how many classes did you take in self-development? Well, if you're like most people, the answer is zero, but that's about to change right now, thanks to a wonderful online resource called hopeandjoyacademy.com. And right now on Spotlight, our guest today is the woman behind hopeandjoyacademy.com. Her name is Gurjit Bhullar, and I'm delighted to have her as a guest. Gurjit, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Oh, thank you, Logan, for having me here today. It's a
My
pleasure.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Your website is spectacular. I think it offers hope for a lot of people. And let's start with the big question, why? Why did you start up this academy, and why is it in your toolbox to help people like this?
I think my whole life I've always been helping people, but not realizing that I was actually helping people, even as like a young child. But what really got me to this point was the fact that I was hit with a lot of challenges in life. I had a lot of things, I was, my parents were well-to-do. So we were taken care of. But then when it came to my life, when I had everything, all of a sudden everything started disappearing. I had a company that my brother-in-law helped build. It was his company, but I came into it and it burnt to the ground, literally burnt to the ground. And my brother-in-law had helped build it to $5 million. And all of a sudden, overnight, it was gone. And I had taken loans to get invested in it. And then all of a sudden, oh my Lord, I'm still stuck with these loans because they were personal loans. But then my retirement, which I thought was going to be my retirement, just disappeared.
Hmm.
And then also with that, ended up getting physically ill, and a lot of pain and trying to find answers. And, you go to doctors and sometimes they have answers for you, sometimes they don't. And then it's just dealing with the pain. From also losing both my parents, with cancer. Um, and watching them passing on is not the easiest thing for anyone to have to deal with, especially when you thought your parents were always going to be around, you know. Marital problems, with all of this happening, marriage falling apart and having to deal with that. Trying to figure out, oh my Lord, what am I going to do? And I did what everybody else does. We go online, we research, we try to figure out resources on how do I get out of this? Why is this happening? And so it also led me to my spiritual journey, being born Sikh and being a Christian, with just being led, but not being led with outside sources. I kind of went on my journey, trying to figure out, why am I here? What is the purpose of all of this? Why is there pain? And actually realizing what you had said earlier is we are brought up in a society where they teach you your math, your science, your grammar, a little bit on finances, but and then also the physical aspect. You hear take care of yourself physically, but no one actually teaches you how to deal with the mental and emotional aspects of what life brings to you. Really, no one teaches you that. And so when I was looking and searching, I was getting roadblocks even there. Here I am, I don't have a lot of finances, I'm seeking help and noticing that everybody has their own agenda, and I can't afford these services,
Hmm.
but yet I need help.
And
Um,
the things you describe, losing your parents, financial issues, relationship issues, if you live long enough, you're going to go through all of them. You're absolutely going to
Absolutely.
lose your parents, unfortunately, even though you can't imagine life without them. You're going to have financial issues at one point or another during your life. Things will be tight. And these
Absolutely.
are issues that people struggle with. And like you said, you went online, you tried to find resources for help, and the resources were scarce. There really were none.
Yes. 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 And the ones that were, they were like so astronomically out of price. And it's like, oh my Lord, what am I going to do? I can't afford $2,000 or $5,000 or whatever the case may be. And most people can't. But what I realized is I do a lot of research. That's who I am. I've been doing research my whole life. And so I really started diving into this and thinking, there's got to be something out there, you know, and really door after door closing, going to these webinars, you get called into doing these webinars, and you do these webinars and all of a sudden it sounds amazing. Okay, I found my resource. All of a sudden at the end, you realize that, oh, okay, here's the price. Okay, I can't afford that. Okay, I'll have to move on. Or if you do get resources and you don't have the help to move forward in those resources, because what I realize is you can't do it alone. But yet society has put us in a place where we've been taught you can do it. You've got the resources. No, we can't do it. We realized that when COVID happened, when everybody was going crazy, when all the lockdowns were happening, people were like, oh my Lord, what do I do? You know, and so that's where and then what was happening is because I was always helping friends and family, they were like, gee, you have something, you have a gift, you need to get out there. Right now is the time. And I'm like, oh, do I really want to put myself out there? But then I realized this one woman changed my life. And I ended up at the end of all this, I ended up going to a place called Passion Ministry, and it was out in Alabama, even though I'm in Canada, because I was calling all over the world. I was trying to get any help that I could find. And I met a gentleman by the name of Pastor Tim, who even till today has been helping me. And, that fellowship has been amazing. And what I realized is in that moment when I was sharing my story, because it was like a conference line, I touched this woman's life just sharing my story. And it was many, many months later that I had an interaction with this woman again through the phone on a conference line. And she actually came out and said, you changed my life. And that took me back. I'm like, I changed your life? How is that even possible? And she's like, no, your story of what you've been through, you know, and what I was dealing with. And the fact is, we always look at ourselves as failures. When things don't match up, society's made it look like we are a failure. And she said that by hearing you, I had hope. That changed my life. That's when I said, you know what, if I have something here, if I can change one person to get that hope, to get that joy, to get to that place, then maybe, because when I was looking for something, couldn't find anything, maybe it's my time now to share what I have learned, and so that's really what got me here. And the fact that even today, you go online, and the sad thing is, Logan, people will pay that $2,000. When you're desperate, you'll go and you'll grab your credit card and you'll put it on there thinking that that might give you hope. But what you've done is maybe that was your mortgage money. Maybe that was your food money for the kids. But because you're so desperate, you're going to do that. And that also upset me, that because I would come to this and it would all become at the end of a selling thing. And, watching the seminar, like I said, I'm an observant. I would watch the chats and how they'd hype them up, and then you get hyped. And then at the end, it's like, if you don't have the money, they would put you in that spot of, well, maybe you don't want it bad enough.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they do this great buildup, like you're going through this horrible period in your life. There is hope, there is help, and they give you a few tidbits of information and they draw you in with a video. And then at the end of it, they're trying to sell you a bunch of stuff that is very expensive. Yes. And doesn't necessarily deliver. I like the fact how your work is very encapsulated. There's very concrete step-by-step guides that will help you achieve real goals, whether it's increasing your focus or finding happiness.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about these guides that you have available on your website, hopeandjoyacademy.com. One that struck me right away was how to be happy. And there were 13 steps rather on to happiness. Tell me a little bit about that module and how you developed it.
I think a couple of things just before we begin.
Sure.
When it came to these guides, I was actually observing people as well, what their learning habits are, because everybody learns differently. Some people may learn by listening. Some people might want something visual. Somebody might want something to read. And because we are so busy in our lives, you got your dinner to make, you got your husband to take care of, your wife to take care, whatever the case may be. I kind of did it so that, yeah, you're right, step by step, easy things that you can bring into your life that won't take a lot of time, but every day as you add on, you're getting to a place where you're getting that little bit of happiness. If it be, for example, turn on some music that'll give you some joy, listen to a book that'll take you somewhere, escapism. And I think that's the one thing that we don't do. We don't escape enough. We're always go, 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 go. But even if you took a 5-minute break, from that, and just did something else, that joy that you can bring, that laughter that you can bring, and then come back to the situation, just makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, so what I've done is I've created, with a team of others, with experienced coaches, things that have actually worked, that actually make a difference. For example, if you are in a mood, in a really rotten mood, and you're like, oh, and you're angry and stuff like that, right? Sometimes even tricking your brain, and taking yourself to a moment where you can laugh at yourself, or taking yourself into a moment where you even read something or do something that brings a little bit of that happiness into your heart, because really it all falls into your heart, right? If you can do even one of those things and trick your brain, that actually changes something and actually changes your focus. And so that anger that you had at that moment gets subsided, and you move forward into a different avenue, another door that opens.
Absolutely. Almost like changing the channel.
Yes.
You're changing your focus, you're changing your direction, you're changing the energy of the situation, and it can have profound and immediate impact.
Absolutely. One of the big things that my parents taught us when I got married was, you're going to have marital problems, you're going to argue, and things are going to happen. We're human. But one of the things that they used to always say is, when you get to that moment before it gets really hard, walk away. One of you guys just walk away, take a breath, take a drive, get out of the house. And then once that anger is subsided, you come back and you come together as one, right? And then talk about it. I think what ends up happening is we're so in the emotions because we have not been taught how to deal with our emotions. We don't have those thresholds, And I think that the following generation compared to the previous generation is our parents did kind of say no to us at certain points. We were able to build thresholds. Now everything is just given to us, so there's no threshold. The threshold is what's missing, and that's why we're not able to deal with our emotions, our mental state. And then all of a sudden when something hits us, it's like war. So something just traumatic happened, and you don't even know where to begin. You can't even think at that point. The anxiety, the fears come in, everything just is shattered to a point where you got to come to that peace where you can now focus and move forward. I think that's the biggest piece that's missing in our lives, is we weren't taught that. I think they should teach this in school as you're going through school, as a little child, even as this is not something that you have to wait till you're an adult. You can start teaching your children how to deal with certain things, even simply as a child, when, one gets angry because they took their toy away. Start addressing those things at that moment, so that those thresholds are built in, so that when the bigger things, like you were saying, Logan, financials, marriage, death, and right now, the biggest piece that a lot of people are missing is we're moving on in our lives, but there's a lot of inner healing that still needs to be done. And I think the inner healing comes from the last 2 years or whatever that we've been through, something that has touched us, but we haven't really dealt with it. We've kind of put a tap on it, and we've just expected to move on. But guess what? I lost my mom and dad. I lost my mom during that time. I lost my dad many years ago. My mom died of cancer. But I was in a fortunate place where we were able to take care of my mom at home, and we had nurses coming. Not everybody had that. I had friends that had to say their goodbyes over a telephone call.
Right.
They weren't even allowed to see their parents. And these were parents that were healthy, that ended up with COVID, that ended up in a hospital, and all of a sudden they're gone. How do you deal with that? That you didn't get to really say your goodbye or give them that hug that you really wanted to. That stays with you, Logan. That really stays with you. even though I had my mom here, I still have things that I'm dealing with that I wish I had said to my mother. I wish I had more time. I wish I had done things, because at the time when my mom was passing, I was going through some of my difficulties. I was going through some of my finances. I was more wrapped up in that because I was getting those calls from the bank. I was hit with foreclosure on my home,
Right.
and thinking, what did I do wrong? And a lot of it happened because of the business that I lost. But
Right.
thank God, because my spiritual journey and a family friend that helped me get out of that. So I didn't have to go into foreclosure, was able to sell and got something out of it. Well, not a lot of people have that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems like, all of these pressures do kind of hit simultaneously, and it all coincides with midlife. Our parents are sick. We don't realize they're dying. They can be very, very sick. And until the day they die, you don't accept that. And then they're gone. And then
Right.
it's, like you said, the words that you wish you had said, that opportunity has passed. But we're dealing with so much in our lives. We can be
Yes.
juggling children or a spouse we're not getting along with, pressure from work. It
Yes.
is a complicated life. I heard a
Yes.
clergyman one time say that life is hard. And once you accept the fact that life is hard, it becomes a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what led me to my spiritual journey and all of this because, I'm like, why are we here? Why am I going through this? Was it something that I did? Most people will ask that same question. Am I being punished?
Hmm.
What's going on here? And I think that, it might be a combination. We have to reap and sow for some of the things, but sometimes maybe it's a test to get us to where we are, to where we're supposed to be.
Hmm.
And so we're stuck in these comfort zones, that we're scared because that fear and that anxiety, and also pressure from outside. People say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, what are
Yeah.
you wasting your time with? Stop listening to that. Yeah, sometimes you got to listen to that because there might be some things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. But if you have dreams and aspirations, there's nothing harmful about going and doing those. You
Hmm.
know, you don't even have to quit your job to do it. See, this is where the happiness comes in. Is there something that you have put aside in your life that you wish you had done? You know, you don't have to go and quit everything to do that fully, but just bringing it into your life a little bit and maybe doing it on the weekends. Maybe that half hour away from when the kids are sleeping, and instead of watching that television, maybe pick up whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing and start on it. And I'll bet you when you start on it, it'll be easier because you'll want to do more and more and more of it. You know what I mean? So there's a
Absolutely.
lot of little things in my spiritual journey, which is another fascinating part of my life, and that was the other thing. Not only were we talking about those courses, like going on and getting help that other way, but even going and getting help spiritually. I
Hmm.
found that there wasn't a lot of help there. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I called those prayer lines, and it sometimes felt like taking an order. You know,
Hmm.
they would listen to you, and sometimes the prayer didn't even match what you had asked for. And
Right.
then they would be like, okay, got to go to the next call.
Yeah.
But if you're there working for the Lord, don't you think that you
Exactly.
should
God
be
doesn't put you on hold. God doesn't hang up on me. God doesn't send me to voicemail, right?
exactly right? And
Yeah.
I called all around the world. I'm like, there's gotta be somebody that will give me that few minutes. And that was actually Pastor Tim at the Passion Ministry. I ended up going online like what I have here, and I ended up going to hopeandprayer.org. That
Hmm.
changed my life because here
Wow.
was a man that gave me time. He didn't put a label on how many minutes or I have to go to the next call. He was actually on the line, probably half an hour to an hour with me. Who does that? You know, that changed my life because I'm like, okay, if there's someone that's doing that, then how did I come to where I am? I'm offering myself. I know what it feels like when the
Hmm.
door gets slammed in your face, even by those who say that they're working for the Lord, you
Right.
know. And that goes into my next thing. The courses are available step by step. I've got some free ones to get you kind of, to see what we're about. And I've
Mhm.
got some where I am charging, and that's because so that allows me to bring more courses. Things cost money to
Oh,
go,
sure.
to do, right? I had guilt. Trust me, I had guilt trying to put a price tag on here. But then
Right.
praying on it and asking the Lord, he was like, you need these finances to be able to do some of the things that you're going to want to do. So that
And
put
the price
peace.
point is very affordable.
Yes.
I mean, so these
Yes.
are accessible. Everybody has that small sum of money that you're asking for the
Yes.
guides. And like you said, you need that to keep the website going, to keep your work going. I was almost going to say your ministry going, because it
Yes.
almost feels like that. Like you said, there's a
Yes.
spirituality about it, there's a connection about it, there's a psychological basis about it as well. It
Yes.
fulfills a lot of needs. And that sweet spot of, you know, hope and joy and faith and love seem to
Yes.
come together in your
Yes.
guides.
Because love and compassion is what it's all about, right? Isn't that
Mhm.
how we're supposed to be? Yeah, one of the things that I noticed when everybody was going through stuff, friends don't want to hear it, family doesn't want to hear it, because they're going through the same thing and they don't have the answers for you, you know? And so they close their ears, and we become more of a society of less talk and more listening, you know. We've got so many things online that people rush to, you know, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, and people are becoming more internalized. But that I don't think may not, well, sometimes it works, but sometimes that might not be healthy. And so what I've also decided to do with this is, for example, I do want to have a live sessions, you know, so if you buy these courses, come on, let's do live, let's do them together. Let's talk about where you are, you know, let's talk about where we can get you. And anybody who enrolls in any of it, that's free. I'm not charging for that, because I realize that you're going to need help to do these. Motivation, sometimes we can't self-motivate ourselves. It's impossible with all, like you said, daily schedules. How am I going to put this in? But once we make it a routine, it'll become a routine. And we're creatures of habit.
Mhm.
Then you're going to crave it. You're going to be like, oh, I didn't do something. What is it? And even listening to a devotional or hearing a devotional affirmation, you know, somebody said to me, when we go to the gym, we're building up muscle, right? That's why we go. We're trying to get healthier. Well, why don't we do that when it comes to our emotions and our mental state? We need to build it up. And people say, you know, like even on the faith side, people will say, go read the Bible. Well, why do I need to read the Bible? But no one's ever actually said why you should read the Bible, or whatever it is that gets you to that
Right.
place of faith or whatever, right? You know what it does? It fills you up, just like
Mhm.
water. It really fills you up. And unless you try it, you'll never know. And so just like when you go to the gym for muscle, you fill yourself with the word. And let me tell you, that joy, that peace, or even listening to that music, that joy and peace that comes out of you, that fuels you to get you through your day, you
Absolutely. And
know?
it's sort of like
Yeah.
what you said, it has to become a habit. You
Yes.
have a habit of going to the gym. The gym only works if you have a habit of going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever your schedule is. The same thing's
Absolutely.
true with these devotionals. It has to be part of your life. You do it in the morning, perhaps when you wake up. You do it in the evening, perhaps before you go to sleep. Or maybe you take a little break midday and start reflecting on the things that are important to you and start reprogramming what's happening up here so you live a happier, more fulfilled life.
Absolutely. And that's what it comes to. Life is not, I mean, yes, we know that there's going to be challenges in life. No one ever said that it was going to be easy, but there is a way out. There is, because I'm an example of the way out. When I was, you know, when I came to faith, and my family, I'm going to be honest, a lot of them are like, why are you leaving your faith to come to? And I said, because I can hear Jesus calling me.
Mm.
And I could hear Jesus calling me. And at one point, I could hear him say, why are you, you know, I could get you out of this. You know, I literally was at that point where I was, you know, on my knees because all the doors had closed. Everything had closed. I'm hitting foreclosure. You know, I was actually working, Logan, 80 to 90 hours a week at one point. And people are like, how did you do that? Because I did not want to go bankrupt. You know, I
Mm.
did, you know, I think the Lord gave me strength to do those 80, 90s because people looked at me and said, you don't even look like you're doing 80, 90 hours. I had a good base at home that I had people to take care of the rest of the stuff. So I was just working. And I would jump from one job to the next job to the next job. That's what I did. You know, how did I do it? Why did I do it? I needed to pay my bills. I had the banks calling. I had collection agencies calling me. I did what I had to do. I have learned so much in my experience that I can now, for those that are stuck saying, what do I do when the doors are closed? I can give you those resources. I can help you figure out those resources so that you don't have to do it alone. Because I don't believe that we were meant to have to do it alone. I think that's one of the greatest teachings in faith is we come together as one. But yet the world is all becoming separated. But what's so great about the internet is this is not just a North America problem. This is a worldwide problem. And so this tool allows me to reach the entire world of people that are seeking help. And it doesn't matter who you are, what faith base you come from. Like I said, if you're not Christian, it doesn't matter because there's resources here that can help you just with your day-to-day obstacles, you know?
Absolutely. The internet and the digital age can be tools of isolation, but
Yes.
they can also be tools that join us together. I mean, how many friendships have been forged or renewed because of Facebook, for example, or Instagram, or
Absolutely.
whatever it is? The same thing's true with this Zoom media and your website, openfaithacademy.com. You can go online now, you can connect with people who have had similar experiences to you, and it makes you feel a little less isolated, and it
Right.
gives you hope.
It gives you hope, right? And we need hope. Without hope, what is the purpose of life? If you don't have something to move forward to and all your doors are slamming, how are you going to move forward? You know, and so a lot of people, a lot of people kill themselves, unfortunately, because they don't get that help and they feel so isolated and so alone. And I've dealt with, like even through Passion Ministry, hearing some of the stories, and having that compassion because I've been there. And I'm not just even making that up. I've really been there
Mm,
where I didn't even feel like getting out of bed sometimes, and I was just so heartbroken and just tearful. And that fear and that anxiety. Anxiety is the worst thing that you can have happen because it sits on your chest. You can't think, you can't focus, you can't do nothing, and you're losing your day. I was thinking, oh my Lord, I'm losing my life, I'm losing my hours, I'm losing my days. What am I doing? You know, and
right.
so without hope, it's very difficult and it's very challenging to move forward. You know,
And without
and
joy, I mean, let's
yes,
get to
without
both
joy.
components of this. You have to have hope, but then you have to get to joy. You have to find that
Yeah.
happiness. You have to find that fulfillment. You have to find out what it's all about. There is some suffering in this life, like we've
Yes.
both talked
Yes.
about, but there's
Yes.
also such a beauty to this life.
Yes, yes. Because once you get through the suffering, with me and my faith, I got to that point of joy and realized that in my case, when it comes to faith, the Lord gave me that joy. People would look at me and say, Gurjit, you have your whole life falling apart. Yeah, you come in with such joy. Like, why are you still laughing?
Mm.
I laugh at some of my situations that happened in the past sometimes because laughter, just even laughing, turning on a comedy, which is sad that there's not a lot of great comedies on these days, but turning on a comedy and just start laughing, oh my Lord, that just changes your whole being, doesn't it? Like, and
Exactly,
it
exactly. It's
changes
like you
your whole
said, it's like
being.
music. You put on a
Yes,
great song, it'll transport you back to when you first heard it.
yes,
Seinfeld will make you laugh, or Family
yes,
Guy, or whatever you find
yes,
funny. But yeah, there are practical things you can do to change your mood,
yes,
and just putting a smile on your face makes you
yes.
feel better. I mean, I think there have been fMRI studies that just the expression on your face influences your brain chemistry.
Absolutely. I have not changed. Society has changed. When somebody's walking down the road, and I still smile and I say hi. I may not get a hi back and they might look at me weird, but I'm not gonna, I'm still gonna say hi. How are you? Because that's how
Exactly.
I was brought up.
Yeah,
And
I'm the
so
same
someone,
way. I'll say good
yeah,
morning to people, good afternoon, whatever the situation is. And like you said, sometimes you don't get a response, sometimes you get a cold look, and
yes,
I figure that's on them. I did my
yes,
part.
yes.
Yeah,
There's a couple of stories I want to share, Logan.
sure.
There's a couple of stories where, I actually help strangers. And it just pours out of my heart. My dad once said to me, my dad was a helper. My whole family really helps people. That's what they do. And so my dad once taught me, don't shut that door in someone's face because one day you might need that door open. You just don't know. And when that door slams in your face, you're going to feel, you're not going to like that feeling. So when someone comes at your door and they say, please help me, find something or a way that you can help them. That really stuck with me. And that's till this day sticks with me. There was a time when I was working 3 jobs and I had to run downtown and I had to grab my check from one of my jobs because they paid by check. And it was going to be the first time that I was probably going to get about half an hour to myself where I can watch some television, have dinner before I had to hop on to get on to the next, to the next job. All of a sudden I'm making great time. I'm like, great, I'm making great time. I'm going to have that time. All of a sudden I get to the train station and there's a woman sitting there with a suitcase and she was really well dressed. And I'm like, what's going on? Something in my head triggered, and I'm like, should I talk to her? So something in my spirit came, talk to her. So I went and I started speaking to her, and I'm like, hi, what's going on? Like, why are you here? And I saw a little sign, and she wouldn't talk to anybody else, but for some reason she connected to me and she started talking, and she said, well, I just left my abusive boyfriend. I said, wow. And she's like, I'm here because I don't have anywhere to go. And she was stuck. And so I kind of guiding her, even though before I had Hope and Joy Academy, I was guiding her to show her some of the options that may be available. In the time, Logan, that we were standing there, other people were watching, and other people had tried to approach her, but she didn't talk. She got $20 handed to her from a guy who said, I've been kind of overhearing what you guys are talking about. I feel for you. Here's $20. Then another woman comes in the time listening, hands another $20 with the Starbucks card. She's like, what's going on? I don't understand. I've been out here for all this time. Even yesterday, somebody was offering me $300 to come home with them with you know what. And she said, I declined. And she says, I just got almost $50 in my hand and I just can't understand. And I said, because I got her to talk and people heard and they felt for her. She says, I came from a good, I had a nice house. I had granite. She was talking about her granite kitchen countertops to now I'm on the street. I said, but you must have some family or someone that may want to help you. I've got kids and my husband has the kids. And I says, ex-husband. I said, you know what? If you spoke to your ex-husband, guaranteed the mother of his children, he would not want you out on the street. But there was something in her that was holding her back from going and connecting. So then I threw out some other resources, church, whatever, I just kind of threw it out there. And then I had prayers, and because she was a Christian, but then went to something else, and then she wanted to find her faith again. So I had these prayers that I always held with me, and I handed them to her, and she was open to it. She says, I don't remember how to pray. I said, oh, okay, I have something here, and I handed it to her. Never saw her again, but just that little bit of an impact, of that I walked away like, wow, I was shocked that she ended up with $50, almost
Right.
$50 in her
Right.
thing. But I reach out. The last one, which really changed me, was a couple that was homeless. Again, I'm like, why are you guys here? They had a computer, laptop, they had cell phones. Most people would judge them saying they stole them. But my mind was like, no, something was up with this story. She was actually working. She actually had a job that she would go to, but they were living on the street because rent was astronomical. No one would give them the opportunity to rent. He was on disability, so no one wanted to take that effort. And I prayed. I'm going to be honest. I worked literally where they were. I worked, and I was out the window where they were, and I prayed, and I would call out to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, find them, whatever the case may be. Talk to them every time I passed by. Gave them hope, gave them something. And eventually the girl did have a place to go. She could stay with the mom, and she had children. And eventually, after talking to him, because she would have seizures, I said to him, what if you're not here and she has a seizure? Because she had one and people just walk past her, and she has this home, maybe let her be with her children. And then instead of her spending 2 hours to get to her children and then coming back, we'll try to get you a place. Guess what? Just before COVID, I was jumping on the street. He stops me and he says, I got a place. I said, are you kidding me? He says, yeah, I wasn't even supposed to get it for almost 2 years, but it's just around the corner. I said, thank you, God, and I was just like, wow, anybody can impact somebody's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think God has his intermediaries. I think
Yes.
you're one of them. I think that our viewers at home should definitely go to hopeandjoyacademy.com. There are a number of guides there that will change your life, will change your perspective, that'll change your heart, that will change your mind. There are 30-day devotionals, there are 7-day devotionals, there is hope and faith study, there is how to be happy guides. Go
Yes.
on the website now, hopeandjoyacademy.com. We've been talking to Gurjit Bhullar. Gurjit,
One,
thank you so
can
much.
I
Go
say
ahead.
one more thing? I'm
Absolutely.
just going to say that even if there's something on the site that's not there for you, if you are going through something right now, email me. Email me and let's connect, because I am open to help anyone. So, let's connect. So if you can't find that door, no matter what it is, if it be financials, if it be whatever the case, send me an email and we can set up a chat.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You've got a good heart. And I appreciate people like you, and I appreciate you being on our show today, Gurjit.
Thank you again, Logan. It was a
My
pleasure.
pleasure. And to the viewers at home, it's hopeandjoyacademy.com. And I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.